All right, folks, this is Fook, and I'm going to share with you a calculator that I find very useful. And I think you're going to find it very useful as well if you're in the FI movement or getting near retirement and are trying to plan for it. So, this is a financial calculator, and it's modeled after the HP 12C, so the Hewlett Packard 12C, and you can buy it on the App Store. This particular one is called the Vicinno Financial Calculator, and I bought that instead of the actual HP 12C because I think that was like $30 in the App Store, something like that, and this was like $3. Um, but it works exactly the same. The look and the layout and everything is the same. It's basically a clone of the HP calculator. Um, so let's get into it. The first thing to know is that this calculator is what's known as an RPN calculator. And RPN stands for reverse Polish notation. And it basically works a little bit different than your usual calculator. So normally, if you were going to add 4 plus 5, which equals 9, you would literally type 4, the plus sign, and then 5, and then hit equal. And you get 9. Well, that's not how it works here. So for a reverse Polish notation calculator, an RPN calculator, the way it works is you hit the first number, so 4, you hit the enter key, and then you hit the next number, 5, and then you hit the operation you want to do. In our case, we want to do plus, so we're going to hit the plus key. And there you get 9. Okay? It takes a little getting used to, but once you're used to it and you have to do a lot of calculations, it's actually faster to use an RPN calculator than a normal one. Uh, but you got to get some practice in. So for now, you're going to have to take my word. Chances are you're not going to use this as a normal quote unquote calculator, but I did want to point out that it works a little bit different so that you're not going to get confused. So we're going to clear everything and reset the calculator. And the way that we do that is just to press the F key and then the reg key, which is the key just to the left of the enter key. Okay? That basically just clears all the memory of the calculator so we can start fresh. The other thing I like to do is that when you first get it, the default setting is to display just one decimal point. And I'm going to change it to 4. And the way you do that is you hit the F key and then you hit the number 4. And you can see that the display changes to 4 decimal points. All right. So with that little intro out of the way, let's get into why this calculator is so important for people in the FI community or those near retirement or in retirement and want to just quickly do some scenarios just to test out. And you can use this very quickly in most situations that require some time value of money calculation that you don't want to whip out Excel for or something like that because it's just really simple to do. So let's go ahead and take a look at a couple that would apply to this community, and I'll kind of walk you through it. So let's say that you're going to go and buy a new car, right? And for you, it makes sense because you're going to drive this thing until it runs into the ground, right? So buying a new car, you're the owner, you're going to take care of it, you know the history and all that jazz. And if you buy a car and keep it for 10, 15 years, buy new. It makes perfect sense, right? So if you want to figure out that payment, so let's say that the car has a sticker price of 30,000 and you're going to put 5,000 down and you're going to finance 25,000. And you know, typically you don't want to finance it longer than say 36 or 48 months, because if you go longer than that, chances are you're not going to be able to afford that car. More likely than not, you're trying to get that payment down. But let's say that you think you can, so you're going to put 5,000 down. You're going to finance 25,000 over say 48 months, and you want to see what that payment is. On a calculator like this, it's really simple to do. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to enter in the loan amount, which is 25,000. So type that in, And this is going to be our present value, right? So that's the PV key. That's third from the top on the top row, third from the left. But to enter it as a present value, it's an outflow of cash. So we have to use that CHS key that's to the left of 7. That stands for change sign, okay? So we put that into PV and we kind of store it. Now, on an auto loan, you may be getting, 0.9%, right? From the bank or a credit union, because auto loan rates with good credit's pretty low. So what we want to do is we want to get it down to a monthly rate. So let's go ahead and put in 0.009. So that's less than 1%, right? Just right under 1%. And we're going to hit enter. And then we're going to get a monthly rate by dividing that by 12. So on this calculator, you just type 12 and the divide key. And you get this little tiny bit, right? You can store that into I. That's your interest rate. And then we're going to finance this for 48 months. So I'm going to put in 48 and then hit N, the top left key. N is the number period. Okay. On this first example, I'm taking a little time to walk you through it more carefully, but I'll go faster as we move along. Now, once you've entered those 3 items, you can hit the payment key, the PMT key, and it'll tell you what your monthly payment is on that loan. $520. Okay, $521 if we're going to round up. Okay. Now the key here is that on the top row, the first 5 keys from the left, the N, the I, PV, payment, and future value, the FV key, those are all time value of money calculations. And you really only need 3 of those 5 to figure out the others, whatever you're missing. Okay, so in this case, we know what we're putting. We know what the loan is, which is the present value. We know the interest rate, and then we know the number of months. Okay, and with those 3 pieces, we can figure out the payment. So let's clear it and start over again. This time we're going to do the same loan. I'm going to go faster. So let's say that's $25,000 again. And we're going to change sign, store it in present value. This time the rate is 0.9. Now, there's a shortcut to entering it on the calculator that I'm going to show you right now. So I'm going to put in the rate as 0.9. And to get a monthly rate, you hit the blue G key, and then you hit I. Now, if you look at the I key, right underneath it, there's a little blue text that's basically 12 divide. So it basically does that calculation for you by taking the interest rate and dividing it by 12 and then storing it in I. So that's kind of a shortcut, so you don't have to figure it out ahead of time and putting it in. But this time, instead of doing a 48-month loan, we're going to do a 36-month loan. So that's 3 years. So there's a shortcut for that as well. You can hit 3 and then hit the G key again and then hit N. So what this does is it basically just multiplies that period by 12 to get it down to monthly instead of having to do it, manually. It's just a shortcut. And then to find out what this new payment is, you can hit the payment key. Now before, when we did it on 48 months, it was $521 a month, right? You can see that when we reduce the term to 36 months, it's $704. So higher, and that's expected. And you can do this really quick. You don't have to do it with Excel. You can do it when you're at the dealer to try to figure out how much to offer on a car. And you have the power. You can change it on the fly, interest rates, terms, down payment, any of that, and get it really quickly, and most likely even faster than the finance guy at the car dealer. All right, let's move on. So clear the calculator again. This time we're going to do a refinancing scenario. So this is scenario 2. So we're going to refinance our mortgage because we're trying to take advantage of lower rates and knock that monthly payment down because we are nearing retirement or we're just working on cash flow towards financial independence, right? So let's say that you have a mortgage that's $300,000 and it's 30 years. And when you got it, it was 4.75% or something like that. Okay, low comparatively to historical numbers, but you're looking and you can get a rate now for 3.25% on a 30-year fix, right? And you're trying to decide if you should refinance and how that would affect your payment. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So the mortgage, the original mortgage, is $300,000. Change signs put in present value because that is the amount of the loan. And remember that I said it was 4.75% was the original rate that you got. So we're going to put that in I, hit the G, hit I. And it's a 30-year loan, so we hit 30, hit G, and then hit N for 360 months. It does that automatically for you, right? Now hit the payment key, and it tells you that your monthly payment on that particular loan is $1,565 at 4.75 APR. Now, if you're exploring a refi and you can get 3.25% over 30 years, it's very quick to figure out what that new payment is. Because really the only thing that's changed is the interest rate. So what we do is we hit 3.25, hit the G, I key, and then hit payment again. And it should be lower than that 1565, and in fact it is. It's 1306, right? So when we do this, we're saving a couple $100 a month, and only you can decide if this is worth doing. So you can play around with this situation where you say, well, I don't want to do a 30-year fix because I'm in retirement. I want to get rid of the mortgage as soon as I can. So maybe you're interested in a 15-year term, right? So that's another use for this calculator for people who are trying to figure out their cash flow to get to financial independence, or they're in retirement and they're trying to plan for the future. Okay, let's do a couple of more scenarios that works with retirement and how much you would have by a certain age, things like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and clear our calculator. So let's say that you're a worker who's 30. You've been out of school for a couple of years now. You're kind of established in your job. You have a decent income. You're saving, maybe not the max, but a pretty decent amount. So let's call it $15,000 a year, right? So a little more than $1,000 a month. And you want to retire by the time you get to 55. Which is 25 years away. And you want to know how much you would have in your nest egg if you just put it into an index fund that's getting about 8% a year, okay, on average. So what you would do is that right now you have zero in savings. You're just starting out at age 30, but you're going to put in $15,000 a year. So we want to break that down to a monthly figure. So go ahead and put in $15,000, hit enter, 12 divide, and you can see that it's $1,250 a month. Okay, this is going to be what you're saving, so it's an outflow of money, so we're going to change the sign. And because it's your monthly saving, we're going to treat it as a payment. So it really is a payment if you think about how much you're contributing to your retirement account or your 401k, because when you put money into those accounts, you're paying it out of your paycheck or your savings or your checking account and putting it into the retirement account. So it's a payment. It's an outflow of cash, and that's why it's negative. And we'll put that in payment, right? Now, we said that we're going to buy an index fund that's going to average about 8% a year. So for interest rate, we're going to hit 8, and we'll do the blue G key, hit the I key for interest rate. And the reason we do that again is that we started with a monthly amount that we're saving that is equal to $15,000 a year. So we also have to bring our interest rate to the same time window, which is monthly. Okay. And because we're 30 and we're looking to retire at age 55, the time is 25 years. So we put in 25 and again hit the blue G key, and then N to convert it to number of months. So now we have three pieces of information that we've entered out of the five. And we want to find out what our nest egg is at age 55. So you have enough to hit one of those unknown keys. And this time we're going to hit the FV key. And FV stands for future value. So if you start with nothing today, nothing saved up, and you're going to put in $15,000 a year or $1,250 a month at 8%, by age 55, you're going to have almost $1.2 million. Okay? That's kind of how you use this calculator to do these what if scenarios. Now, let's say that you didn't start with a zero balance, right? But from when you started your job to age 30, you've managed to save up, let's call it $5,000. Okay? So your present value, if we want to add that into the calculation, we just put $5,000, change signs, store it into present value. Now, of course, this $5,000 that you have in your retirement account is also going to be growing at 8% compounded. So now when you hit FV, it should be a lot more than 1.188 million, right? And it is. It's 1.225 million. So in essence, that 5,000 that you're starting with is adding to your balance at the end by about $38,000 over that 25 years. Okay? Now, what we know is that when you're starting young, like age 30 or 25, and you're saving for decades, right? 25 years, 30 years, or whatever, all else being equal, it's really the amount of money that you can save every month that will make a difference. So for this person, they were saving $15,000. That's pretty generous, right? $1,250 a month. But if we were going to max out and say, well, what would happen if they were going to save $19,500 a year instead of 15? What does that $4,500 a year do extra? So again, we're going to figure that out. So let's start with 0 in savings to start. So we're going to put 0 into the PV. And now we're going to figure out what $19,500 a month is. So we put in $19,500, 12 divide, and it's just a little more. It's $1,625 instead of $1,250. Change the sign, store it in pavement, and now hit the FV key. And now you're at over 1.5 million by just contributing a little bit more per month and maxing out that 401k. Okay? Now you can use this not when you're 30, but let's say that you're a lot closer to retirement. You're 50 and you want to know, what you would have in the next 5 years because you're going to retire early, or even 10 years, at age 60, still earlier than the traditional age. You can do that too. So let's say that it's a 50-year-old. Let's clear out everything. And they've managed to do really well, and they've saved up $800,000 already by age 50. And it's, a decent amount, but they're not quite where they need to be yet. But they want to know over the next 5 to 10 years what they're going to end up with. Okay, so let's start with what they have saved up. 800,000. Make that negative, put it in present value. 8% interest rate again. Put that in interest rate. And this time we're 5 years. We'll put that into the period. And because they're age 50 and over, they're going to have a catch-up contribution that they can put in. So it's going to be a lot more than, say, $19,500 a year. It's going to be like $26,000 a year. So let's figure out what that is on a monthly basis. Divide by 12. So $21.66. So we're going to store that in pavement. And now we can hit future value and see what they're going to end up with 5 years from now at age 55. So remember, they started at 800,000. And by maxing out and also utilizing the catch-up contribution because they're now 50, they're they're going to have almost 1.4 million. It's 1.35, right, in 5 years' time, by age 55. Now, if they determine that, hey, this is still not enough to live on, what if I wait until age 60 to retire instead of age 55? Well, since we have all these parameters in, really the only thing that's changing is our time horizon. So to make it 10 years, we just hit 10, hit the G key, hit N. So now it's 120 months instead of 60 months. Hit that FV, future value, and you can see that they have almost 2.2 million. And this may be enough for them to have a very comfortable retirement. So those are a couple of scenarios that you can do very quickly once you're used to it on a financial calculator like the HP12C or an equivalent emulator like the one that I'm using. All right, I hope that you found this useful. It's a very quick introduction to this calculator. This is a very powerful calculator that you can do all kinds of calculations on. You can do annuities calculation, you can do internal rate of returns, and all kinds of mathematical, financial, statistical calculations. That's just really cool. But I'm showing you some of the basic ones, and even if you just use the time value of money calculation, it's well worth the price to be able to just sit, use your phone, and make these what-if scenarios super quickly without having to bust out a spreadsheet like Excel or Google Sheets or something like that. So in any case, I hope you found this useful, and come back for more videos. See ya.